For the past week, I've been working through agent skill issues. Now you have agent skills, subagents, custom slash commands, output styles, plugins, hooks, memory files, and MCP servers. What is this all for? I've been using Claude Code since it was first available in February. Since its release, I've generated more code than in my previous 15 years as an engineer. This tool has changed engineering, but this once simple tool has gotten complex over the year. So let's simplify it. Skills are simple, but they're so similar to MCP, subagents, and custom slash commands, it's hard to know when to use a skill. There's a right way to think about skills, and there's a wrong way. I want to show you both to make it absolutely clear what this feature can do for your engineering. Skills are powerful, but you should not always build a skill. Let's make sense of all of these powerful Claude Code capabilities. Let's first look at the wrong way to use skills to solve an engineering problem. Here we have a skill on the left, a subagent in the middle, and a custom slash command on the right. Bam, bam, bam. If you're parallel agentic coding, generating multiple solutions at the same time, you've likely created Git worktrees. Here's a question for you. Which one of these three ways is the right way to create your Git worktrees or manage your Git worktrees? To answer this, we need to understand how these features really differ. On the top here, we have four key features we're going to compare side by side. And on the left, we have capabilities. So let's start with the three most important capabilities. Skills stand out here right away because they're triggered by your agents. If you give your agents some direction, they will trigger the right skill. Subagents are very similar in this way, unlike slash commands where you are explicitly kicking this off. We then have context efficiency. Now, this is a huge selling point of skills. Unlike MCP servers, which explode your context window on boot up, skills are very context efficient. This is something that they talk about a lot, which I think is super, super important. I'm glad that they're going into detail. There are three levels of progressive disclosure. You have the metadata level, the actual instructions of your skill.md file, and then you have all of the resources that your agent pulls in from your skill when it needs. All right. The last thing here is context persistence. The only loser here is subagents. But of course, this is what makes subagents great. Subagents isolate and protect your context window. Shareability is not that important. You can use Git, you can use plugins, you can share these.
Your worktree worktree is live on ports 4020 and 5193, ready for parallel development.
Nice. All right, so we got one of our trees there. Subagents are the big winner if you're looking to parallelize your workflows.
Dan, I've successfully created and started your yellow tree worktree on ports 4010, and it's running now.
All right, so we have our red tree, blue tree, yellow tree. Fantastic. Okay, you would think that specializability is unique to skills. It's not. You can specialize any one of these features. And of course, you can share all of these any way you want. Now, what is important is modularity. This truly differentiates skills. Skills are just like MCP servers in that you have a dedicated solution. It's even more modular than MCP servers, frankly, because skills have a dedicated directory structure, right? If we look at this skill, create worktree skill, the most important thing here is that we have a dedicated structure for building out repeat solutions that our agent can invoke, right? That is the primary benefit of skills. So the modularity here is really important. It is high, all right? Unlike subagents and slash commands, where you kind of had to roll this capability out yourself, which we have done in previous videos. And then things get interesting here at the last level where we start thinking about composition. Now, this is where I think a lot of the confusion comes when we talk about skills, MCP servers, subagents, and slash commands. Specifically, skills and slash commands are very, very composable. In fact, you can circularly compose all of these items together minus subagents, right? Because subagent cannot use a subagent. But when it comes to skills, skills can use prompts, skills can use other skills, skills can use MCP servers, and of course, skills can use subagents. So this is the feature breakdown. As you can see here, there's a ton of overlap. This is important to call out. It's the approach that's new, right? We get a dedicated modular directory structure, efficient context, right? Which again, we had with subagents, but these are triggered by our agents. So this is the distinguishing pattern of when you would use a skill over MCP, subagent, and slash command. Now, I know this isn't super clear right away, so let's look at some dedicated specific use cases on when you would use these 4 features. So skills are truly for automatic behavior. MCP is built for external integrations. We have subagents for isolated workflows that you can also parallelize. And then slash commands are manual triggers, right? Manual units of compute that you can deploy when you need them. The big battle here I see is between skills and slash commands. To be specific here, these are custom slash commands, all right? So let's look through some use cases. Automatically extract text and data from PDFs. So which of these 4 do you think this belongs in? As we work through this, make a good guess and then comment down below how many you roughly got right and if you were aligned with where I'm going to place these use cases. All right, so I think automatically, right, there's that keyword, automatic. I think you want this to be a skill. If you always want to extract text and data from PDFs, this is a skill. What if you want to connect to Jira? This is an external source, right? So we want, of course, an MCP server, all right? What next, right? Let's keep breaking these down. What if you want to run a comprehensive security audit? Now, this one is tricky. But I think because you want this to be able to scale and because you don't really need this in your context window and you don't want this to be automatic, you want this to occur at a specific point in time that you kick off, I think we want this to be a sub agent, okay? And so what about generalize, git commit messages? Now, we have a simple one-step task here. Here's the tricky part about these, right? You could easily make this a skill, you can make it a slash command, you can make it a sub agent, but which is best? I think this is best as a simple slash command, okay? What about querying your database? This is a classic one. You, of course, want an MCP server, all right? You at least want to start with an MCP server. We'll talk about composability in just a second here. So what if you want to fix and debug some failing tests and you want to do this at scale, okay? You, of course, want to throw this inside of a sub agent, right? You can scale this up, just get the job done. I don't care what the errors are, just fix them and do it at scale, all right? What if you want to detect style guide violations? This is an interesting one. I think when you want to encode some behavior, some repeat behavior, I do think that you want this to be a dedicated skill, all right? Fetch real-time weather data from APIs. This is a stupid one. It's MCP, right? This is a third-party service that you're integrating with. So here's a cool one. What if you want to create a component, right? Insert whatever UI framework you use. No one cares anymore and it doesn't matter. This is a simple one-off task that you likely want to encode in a custom slash command. All right, fantastic. So here is a keyword. Whenever you see parallel, you should always just jump to subagents, right? Nothing else supports parallel calling, right? It's just subagents. So whenever you see that parallel keyword and whenever you want to think about something you want to parallelize and isolate the context window, and again, you have to be okay with losing that context afterward because it will be lost. You'll just want to throw that into a subagent, right? So this is for subagents, okay? So here are some use cases with the appropriate feature I think you should set them next to. I think it's clear that MCP is all about external integrations, and also if you want to bundle multiple services together and then expose them to your agent with specific capabilities, it's pretty clear here you want MCP. If you want isolated context windows that you're okay losing the context of and you want parallelization, it's clear you want a subagent. Now what's more confusing is skills versus slash commands. I think skills versus MCP is very distinct. Skills can, of course, use MCP servers. You can compose everything into a skill, but you can also compose everything into a slash command. And then this is where things get interesting. If you look at this feature set here, slash commands and skills are very similar. The only exception here is the modularity and who is triggering it. So this is actually really interesting. There are a lot of engineers right now that are going all in on skills. They're converting all their slash commands to skills. I think that's a huge mistake. I see slash commands as the primitive of agentic coding, of AI coding, and really of language models. So you want to be very, very careful to get rid of your prompts. And let me show you exactly what I mean. Let me show you how I'm thinking about approaching skills as a compositional unit and not a replace all for MCP, slash commands, or subagents, because these are all distinct. I think if you're using just one of these, you're not using these features properly. You're not using Claude Code properly. We have our work trees, and we can just verify this very quickly. If we go to trees, you can see we have 3 brand new versions of this code base, fully built out. There's the environment variable file. If you go into apps, you can see client server, everything is there. Our agents use the prompt, subagent, and skill to do the exact same work. This is the wrong way to think about skills. If you can do the job with a subagent or a custom slash command and it's a one-off job, do not use a skill. This is not what skills are for. How should we think about skills? So here's our skill subagent and here's our prompt. The 3 agentic units of work that we kicked off, we accomplished the same job with 3 different capabilities. Okay, now this is where things get tricky and this is where there's a lot of confusion around this tool, right? In engineering, you don't want many ways to do the same thing. You want one dedicated way to get the job done. So this is getting confusing. Claude Code is becoming a larger and larger tool. Successful things tend to grow, and at some point it loses its originality. It loses what made it distinct. Now, I don't think Claude Code is there. I like this feature. I think it's a net positive for the ecosystem, for the tool, and for engineers. Now, how do we properly use skills? Remember in the beginning, I mentioned that, I asked, what's the right way to create a Git work tree? Very clearly, you can do this in 3 distinct ways. I think in the end, you can build out any one of these, but the true answer here is you probably want a prompt to create a Git work tree. You want to be able to see what happened, and unless you need to create many of these, we don't need to parallelize this, right? But if you do need to parallelize, use a subagent, right? That's a perfect, branching point to go from custom slash commands to subagents. If you need to parallelize, you can take your existing custom slash command and throw it in a subagent. In fact, that's exactly what we've done here. If you actually dial into this subagent prompt, you can see I'm having the subagent compose a prompt with the slash command tool. It is calling our prompt. So we're starting to get into a composability chain, right? Where we have the base level unit being a prompt, aka a custom slash command. How you compose these features is very important, all right? And you can push this even further. In our skill, guess what we're doing? Instructions. Use the slash command tool, okay? So here we are looking at the prompt as the primitive for all the existing features. I've been saying this for years, frankly, ever since the generative AI revolution kicked off. Do not give away the prompt, okay? The prompt is the fundamental unit of knowledge work and of programming. If you don't know how to build and manage prompts, you will lose. Why is that? It's because everything comes down to just 4 pieces now. There are 4 pieces of agentic coding. You have context, model, prompt, and tools. If you understand these, if you can build and manage these, you will win. Why is that? It's because every agent is the core 4, and every feature that every one of these agentic coding tools is going to build directly on the core 4. This is the foundation. This is the ground level. All right. If you master the fundamentals, you'll master the compositional units, you'll master the features, and then you'll master the tools. This is why it's so important to always lead with a custom slash command. When you're starting out, I always recommend you just build a prompt. Don't build a skill, don't build a subagent, don't build out an MCP server. Keep it simple, right? Build a prompt. Everything is a prompt in the end. It's tokens in, tokens out. So if we want to parallelize though, we can go to subagent. Now, when do we go to a skill, right? This is the critical question. When do we move from a prompt to a skill? For creating Git work trees, we can easily use just a prompt, right? One prompt solves the problem. But if we want to solve the problem of managing our Git work trees, right? Because, dealing with Git work trees isn't just about creating them, right? If we open up trees here, I now have 3 Git work trees to manage, to read from, to merge, to remove, right? We need a skill, okay? We need a skill to manage our Git work trees, right? So this is where one prompt is not enough. You want to scale it into a reusable solution. We need, of course, a skill. This is what skills were built for. Okay, reusable file system-based resources, Claude, domain-specific expertise, workflow context, best practices into specialists. Okay, I just kind of glossed over that, didn't really read that properly, but you get the point. Okay, this is what skills are all about. Skills offer a dedicated solution, right, an opinionated structure on how to solve repeat problems in an agent-first way. Okay, let me show you exactly what I mean here. So we're gonna put up a new instance. And if we go to our skills here, right, if we collapse and look at skills, we have a work tree manager skill. This is a lot more built out, right? And so we can do something like this, lists skills. You can see here I have a meta skill and a video processor skill.
Dan, I've listed the 4 available skills you can use in your Claude Code environment.
So this is the right way to think about skills. We have a skill that is a manager of a specific problem set, repeat solution for a specific problem. If we actually just needed to create work trees / create work tree, and we're done, right? Give the branch, give the additional details to make the branch unique, right? Set up environment variables, set up the right client server ports, whatever, and you're done, right? One off. But if we need to manage, and you saw those prompts just then, right? If you need to manage multiple elements, stop manually prompting this, stop firing off these custom / commands by yourself, really dial in and build a skill. So let's run this, right? Let's actually run this skill. So I'm going to say, pull back up our trees and let's manage these now, right? So manage, get work trees, remove red tree, create purple tree with offset 4. So that we offset our ports, list our trees. Okay, so this is a skill set. We have solved the problem of managing our get work trees with a dedicated skill. This is what skills are about, all right? I'm gonna fire that off and our agent is gonna get to work on this. This leads us to a great point here. Let's go ahead and look at some definitions while our agent works through this piece by piece. When we come back, we should see red tree removed and we wanna see an added purple tree. And then we wanna see just a summary of our current trees, right? Let's look at some just definitions at a high level, right? Where do all of these capabilities fit and when do we use each, all right? So agent skills, you use this to package custom expertise that your agent autonomously applies to your reoccurring workflows. Super important, very distinguished. MCP servers is about connecting your agent to external tools and data sources. To me, there is very, very little overlap here between agent skills and MCP servers. These are fully distinct. And to be super clear here, I like to think about things in composition levels, right? What should be using what? Skills can have many MCP servers, skills can have many subagents, skills can have many custom / commands, right? But an MCP server is a lower level unit, right? You wouldn't have an MCP server use a skill. So there's a chain of command here. And very interestingly, I would consider a / command a super primitive where it acts as both a primitive and a composition because of course you can take a custom / command and you can run a set of skills, you can run MCP servers, and you can run subagents. So it's very interesting how these things compose. There's a lot of circular composition that you can build up here, but I would definitely place your skills at the top of the composition hierarchy, all right? So let's continue here. We have agent skills, we have MCP servers, right? External data sources. We have subagents, and we use subagents to delegate isolatable, specialized tasks with separate contexts that can work in parallel. Subagents are very distinguished, right? I think it's very clear when you'd use a subagent versus when you wouldn't. When you want work out of your primary agent's context window and you can delegate it and you don't care that you're gonna lose the context at the end. We also have custom / commands, all right? This is for reusable prompt shortcuts that you invoke manually. Now, I am definitely underselling custom / commands here. I would say if you had to pick one and you just kind of forget about everything else, you definitely want to prioritize your mastery of custom / commands. Why? Because this is the closest compositional unit to just bare metal agent plus LLM, right? You're passing in a user prompt. You must master the prompt. There are no exceptions here. If you avoid understanding how to write great prompts, how to really build these out in a repeatable way, you will not progress as an agentic engineer. You will not progress as an engineer in 2025 and 2026 and beyond. Okay, the prompt is the fundamental unit of knowledge work now. There are no exceptions to this. If you understand this, you will win. All right. And this is something that comes up over and over and over. This is a big topic inside of tactical agentic coding and agentic horizon. I'll leave those linked in the description if you want to push further and really master how you can use prompts at scale in agents with multiple agents. All right. That's the custom / command. This is the primitive. All right. This is ultra important. All right. So what's next? Right. Let's continue breaking down all these features. We of course have hooks. Hooks are great. This is deterministic automation that executes commands at specific lifecycle events. Right. This is where we kind of add determinism rather than always relying on the agent to decide. So we need to balance these things, right? And this is why, again, in tactical agentic coding, we push outside of the agents to ADWs, AI developer workflows, where you combine the old world of code with the new world of agents. If you really want to scale, you need both. And hooks lets us tap into deterministic automation. All right. So what else do we have here? We have plugins. This is simple. There's no overlap here between any of these other features. Plugins let you package and distribute these sets of work, right? This isn't super interesting. It's just a way to share and reuse Claude Code extensions, all right? Last but not least, here we have our output styles. And so you saw this here, right? I'm using output styles 24/7. When our agent finishes this work, it's going to actually summarize the work using a text-to-speech output style. If we scroll down here, you can see I have a whole slew of output styles. We've talked about this before on the channel. I'm using the observable tools diff text-to-speech summary, and you can see here we're on to that last step, list, worktrees, prompt. And very importantly here, you can see my skill is using a compositional prompt, right? It's using a prompt to do the work. Great stuff there. That's the output styles. I hope this helps you distinguish some of these features and when you should be using each. At the end of the day, use whatever works for you, right? Don't let these features, don't let these Claude Code, buzzy kind of features stop you from just shipping work, right? Use what works for you. But I would say have a strong bias towards slash commands. And then when you're thinking about composing many slash commands, subagents, or MCPs, think about putting them in a skill, all right? But your skills, again, should have a slew of slash commands. Now, that leads me to some opinions that I have about this feature. I like it, but there are also some problems with this feature. So let me just quickly work through this pros and cons list. So this is Agent Skills, and let me just kind of walk through this with you. I'm gonna tell you what I like and what I don't like, and comment down below if you agree with me on my pros and cons here. I like that this is agent invoked, right? We want to lean into the autonomy, right? Dial up the autonomy knob to 11, all right? And this is how we do it. We delegate more work to our agents. I like the context protection. Right? This is incremental context window adoption. Progressive disclosure is what they call it. Unlike MCP servers, which just straight up torch your context window, I like that this is a dedicated, isolated file system pattern, right? We can now logically compose and group our skills together. This makes it really easy to write, update, create, modify, and then distribute what your agents can do. So this is great. This is honestly the biggest value prop right next to agent invoked for agent skills. Can compose other elements, or we should say other features. And then lastly, again, I think it's really important to highlight, this is the agentic approach. This is what you want to see. Agent just does the right thing. Lots to like here, but there are some things that I don't like. So it doesn't go all the way. What do I mean by that? I can't nest subagents, and I can't nest my prompts, right? Why not? Why do we not have the capability to, inside of our bundle here, right? Instead of our file system VM for my skill, where's my slash commands directory? Where's my agents directory, right? Why didn't the Claude Code team go all the way here? If you're making this the bundle for repeatable solutions, why can't I embed prompts, the most important feature out of any one of these agents? It's just prompts, right? Don't let anyone confuse you with these feature releases. Prompts are the most important thing of all.
Dan, I've successfully managed your Git work trees.
Nice.
Removed red tree, created purple tree on ports 4040 and 5013, and listed all 3 running work trees.
Okay, so that work's been completed, but let me just finish my rant here. Why can't I put the most important primitive of all inside of skills in a dedicated way? I know I can just engineer this in, but they're creating this pattern, so just go all the way. That's my biggest complaint, and my one request for this feature. I think that reliability is going to be an interesting one. So will the agent actually use the right skills when chained? I think individually it's less concerning, but when you stack these up, and this is one of the key features that they mention, compose capabilities, combine skills, how reliable is that? Can I actually deploy that into production? Can I actually chain together 5 skills and expect them to be called back to back to back to back to back? Or should I, again, just use a prompt? Because I can guarantee you, if you run, call /XYZ, then call /ZYX, this will run in the right order. So it's not clear to me how reliable skills are yet. Of course, more testing. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like and comment so the YouTube algorithm knows you're interested. We're going to be pushing skills hard and seeing what we can really do on the channel. So the last kind of issue I have with this is that we could do all this with prompt engineering plus custom slash commands plus slash command tool. Problem here is that skills are effectively opinionated prompt engineering plus modularity. The real question here is what's the actual innovation? Right? What's actually new here? I think the answer is not that much. And at the same time, having a dedicated, specific way to operate your agents in an agent-first way is still powerful. All right. So it's very interesting, right? This is quite a simple feature. It's a kind of thin, opinionated file structure, but we could do that before, So I don't know. I'm still kind of working through this. There's nothing actually new here. I think this is the Claude Code team making it easier to bundle together repeat solutions in an agent-first way. So that's my pros and cons list. I've built out several skills for repeat workflows. Right now, I'm really stacking up my user directory with a bunch of concrete skills. It's very clear that this release is important, right? We have this huge banner here at the top. The Claude Code team, the Anthropic engineers, they're really pushing this feature, and I think for good reason. This is powerful, and it's a dedicated way to, across their entire platform, enable engineers and just general users to create repeat agent-first solutions, right? We're creating domain-specific expertise in an agent-first way. So I like this feature. I am using it. I give this a solid 8 out of 10. It is very clear this does not replace any existing feature or capability. This is not a replacement for MCP / command or subagent. It is a higher compositional level that you can use to group these features together to solve a specific problem in a repeat way. This code base is going to be available to you. Link in the description. You're going to get access to all 4 of these skills. And I also have the meta skill for you. You can use this skill to build other skills. This is a very, very, very powerful agentic abstraction you can always use. Build the thing that builds the thing. This is a big theme in tactical agentic coding. Again, link in the description for that. Then we have the video processor where we actually have a dedicated script. And this skill is dedicated around processing and managing different video files, create transcriptions, so on and so forth, right? So I just wanted to give you a few ideas of how you can use skills to push your engineering forward. Take these, understand skills, make them your own. If you made it to the end, definitely like and comment to let the algorithm know you're interested. I'll see you next Monday with a big idea for your agentic coding. Stay focused and keep building.